It's just different.
Hopeless at one point and then having an opportunity to make you go harder, make you get in that booth and just really express that hopelessness. Like, man, y'all don't understand. This is like, you know what I mean? You dig from a different place. That bottom of your soul, that pit, homie, where you felt like the shit was, you know what I'm saying? You always wanted, but it looked like it was just not gonna happen.
Shit, in your mind it ain't gonna happen, shit, it probably won't. I took some risks, some people probably won't. That's how we're grateful for the fruits of all my labor. Hard to live and know you sick, I'd rather be with my creator, thinking time's up.
All right, welcome back to Foreign Sight Podcast. This is your host, Mike Obi.
It's your boy, London Ogletree, back for some more gems. What's up, my man?
Another thing, my brother. Busy week, a lot going on, but everything's going well. What's going on with you?
Man, it's been a strange week. It's been raining. We've been getting rain for 10 days straight over here in Houston. So to me, it's been a lot of busy work, but also at the same time sluggish because it's rain. But like you say, you gotta keep going.
Yeah, most definitely. So obviously, before we get started, we appreciate all of you guys who continue to support us and rock with us on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We ask that you continue to do so by keep on dropping us some 5-star ratings on your listening platforms and subscribing to our YouTube channel to help boost the movement and to help keep spreading the gems to the culture. All right, so on this episode, it's time for us to address the elephant in the room that I've been thinking about for some time since we started working, since we started podcasting together, and really since I started it. So this is this idea and this concept that I see floating around that men with podcasts or any type of platform are a red flag. They're dangerous. So what do you think about that statement on its own?
It could be. Anybody can be dangerous with the big with the big platform. It depends how you use it. So it depends how that person is. So you gotta boil it down to who that man is and who that person is as an individual. So if they're a good person, then it shouldn't be a red flag. But there's some people who will get that and never had any, how do I word it? Never had, was ever, I guess, cooler, or if you want to use that word, I guess you can say cool. So it can kind of overplay. It can overplay and they can kind of abuse their authority of like, I have it now, I have my clout now. So it can be a red flag. So, but for somebody like me, I don't think it would be a red flag for me, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's something that, everybody has the opportunity to speak and to have a voice, right? Which I've always been for ever since I started podcasting, right? I'm all for anybody who wants to talk about something or who wants to let their opinions out doing so, right? There's nothing wrong with that because for me, I've always understood my individuality. So I can listen to anything and be able to say, okay, I agree with that or I don't agree with that. But I think more so what is going on is what I'm seeing people who have a voice in general, especially if it doesn't fit the masses or if it doesn't fit a certain narrative, people see that as a red flag or like that is like you shouldn't be talking on a microphone. So what do you think about that aspect of, people in general shouldn't be allowed to talk? What do you think about that?
I don't think anybody shouldn't be allowed to talk, but like it just depends how you like word everything. It's just like you can't tell somebody not to say or have a voice, but it's like, can that person be respectful? Can he kind of see both pictures of the side of what he's saying and don't just have and I think that's kind of what we did starting from the beginning. Some women were like, well, you guys might just be speaking from a man's perspective and kind of bring the woman's perspective. And I think we got better at that a lot. So I don't think you can tell anybody to not speak, but like just how you word it, if that's how it should be better said.
Yeah. So now one thing you and I have both talked about since we started podcasting together is like this podcast, especially this latter half of season 2, has kind of both talked about it feeling therapeutic or like it being therapy for us. I know that's how I feel largely when we get on every week. I know you've talked about that. And I think, we talk about mental health and men's mental health where, guys don't feel comfortable speaking up or speaking out. And so it's like, well, why don't you guys seek therapy? And I feel like now with a lot of these male platforms, with these male podcasts, with these male channels, whatever the case, whether it's self-improvement, whether it's barbershop talk, I think this is the way guys are feeling comfortable doing therapy rather than going to a therapist where it's like, oh, I go to some person and I have to sit down in a chair, or the fact that you have to acknowledge you go to therapy. It's like, no, I'm gonna just get on camera and talk with the fellas or talk with my lady if it's not talking with his lady or if it's whomever, or just having back and forth with the opposite sex. Like I've seen that, and those ones seem to be the most popular. Having that back and forth in real time. So just on that alone, I mean, I feel like guys are going about therapy just in this different way. What do you think about that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Or is there something I'm missing?
No, for me, I like I said, this is therapy for me. Like, but I do think we could use the extra therapy. But for me, for it depends. Like I said, everything's windows down to that person and that personality and that individual. Because for me, I've been so like head on with my problems growing up that I don't think I need therapy because I'm open. I think people who need therapy is people who are not really closed off to it, but like just don't like speaking on it. Or it could be they might, for me, a lot of people angle my stuff and say, well, you heal through telling people through their problems because you can't express your stuff. So I think that's the angle that I go through for therapy. So I don't think I need therapy. And like for this what we do every week is very therapeutic for me. And I don't know how it is for you. Maybe you can kind of touch point on, do you think we need extra therapy as individuals that do podcasts? And do you think the people who do radio, they need therapy? Because look at Charlamagne the God, he does Breakfast Club and he also does therapy. So it's like, I don't know if you still need therapy, but I think that for me, this is a good start for my therapy on my own.
Well, I like how you frame that, the last point, and that's a good question you bring up. Do a lot of these content creators need their own therapy? I think it depends on the person. Everybody's threshold is different. Everybody's tolerance towards therapy is different. Everybody's perception about therapy is different. Like me and my culture, I've talked about this numerously. Therapy is like not like that doesn't exist. That's not a thing, right? Like we don't believe in therapy in my culture largely. Not, and it's not that it's bad. It's just, again, you're always taught to think like the world really isn't that bad of a place, especially if for me, my parents came from Nigeria. A lot of like people in my generation, I'm an Americanized Nigerian person where I grew up in America, but I have the Nigerian culture kind of influencing me, right? And so as a result, like when people my age would say, oh yeah, this person does therapy, or I think I need therapy, something like that, it's like, why? Like, do you understand how good you have it in America? Like, what is there to feel bad about? Now, I don't agree with that. I feel like if somebody has a problem, it should be acknowledged and they should work through it,
Yeah.
right? But there are some people who just they already know in the back of their mind, like, I'm not gonna do therapy. I don't need therapy, and it's not gonna ever be a thing. There's that aspect, and then there are those who say, you know what, I need something else. Like maybe doing a podcast is your initial kind of exposure to therapy. Like that's like step one, give or take. But then that extra part is, okay, there's still something missing. Like if you're still feeling like something's missing, that you're maybe escaping or overcompensating by just having a podcast, I think you do need to go to that extra step of going to a therapist, going to a professional who doesn't know you, has no bias towards you, and you kind of are able to talk through those problems. Because a therapist obviously studies it and they're certified in it, so they may be able to, fill in the crevices of something that you may brush over, right? So I think that every person is different, and those who need a little bit extra help should go seek it. But a good starting point is just going and having not even just a podcast, but just having a space where you have people you trust, and then you guys just talk about stuff. Like I think that'll also kind of help a lot of what we have going on in our culture, where everything is virtual, digital, everybody's on social media, and people don't know how to conversate and talk in real time anymore. So I think it's just having those little spaces that people need of like, hey, I rock with these people. I'm friends with these people. Let's talk about life. Hey, what's going on? How we doing? Just a little stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like I have a lot of people who are like that, where I have a very close circle. So they have people who just, hey, touch base. Hey, I'm just calling to check in. Are you good? Like that's it. Yeah. That's how me and my older brother are. That's how two of my closer mentors are. Like sometimes you won't even have to talk for that long. It's just, hey, you good? Yeah. All right, bet.
And a lot of people struggle with that. Like there's a lot of people out like I'm close to sports that are like, I wish we would have contacted this person before it's too late. Like you just never know. And plus, I think that was my problem. Is just like I've always been closed off with therapy. Like, what's the point of what do I need therapy for? Like, what are they going to tell me? And everybody said, what's the unbiased opinion? And it's like you never want to be closed off, but at the same time, I think everybody could use it. I'm not going to sit there and say you can't use it.
What do you think of the perception for us guys, whenever someone like, how unfortunate is it, or do you think it's just part of our, our upbringing, when people have the mindset that people who go to therapy are weaker? Because that seems to be a main thing that people talk about. So why do you think that is, or what do you think about that?
It shows that you have a problem and you think it's basically it's kind of like a rehab in the sense that I think people look at it from like how we was brought up is like um you're admitting to having a problem and you're asking for help, and then people can't look at it as like, oh, they need help. Nobody thinks they need help. They think they can always do it by themselves, where
Mhm.
it's okay to kind of talk to somebody. I think that hard mechanism needs to come down from us, but we've just been shelled so much to kind of have that hard mechanism. So it's like you can get help or you can talk to a professional who can, like you said, come from an unbiased opinion and kind of tell you what they thoughts are and how you should go about it. And then that might relieve some stress or some anxiety in your body going from there.
Gotcha. Good. Now we take it away from maybe the mental health side, but just in terms of having just regular candid, barbershop locker room conversation with your fellas. But now people do it on a platform, people do it on a podcast, people do it on a YouTube, whatever the case. So you have that those type of conversations, but now they're being brought to light. And I think there's something about, dang, y'all think about this too. You other guys are talking about the same thing. Like, I feel like guys larger, our conversation is really kind of or for the most part, not the same, but we go through the same stuff. And so then it's kind of funny and fun to talk about. But what do you think about that now? The whole barbershop concept is really sort of exploding onto the social media. And what do you think
Yeah.
about it?
I love it because I mean, like I said, I grew up in barbershops and get my hair cut as a kid, and that's something that I look forward to. Like, I don't know about you, but I go on YouTube daily to watch podcasts, and it's kind of like a barbershop vibe. And you got the shop with LeBron. You got, if you want to just, they even took that narrative and even ran with like the barbershop type of vibes and but a podcast. You got I forgot this. They're like sitting in the barbershop and they're just talking. Like, so a lot of people have that angle of how they want to talk and how they do their podcast. But just to answer your question, it's like this helps so many people just communicate and just get things off their chest. And I think that's the therapy that we need as people, because it's like, why not chop it up and have the world hear you? They might be going through the same stuff as you. So it's like, if me and you can talk about something, like I got a few people came up to me from Alpha Land and said, well, man, y'all keep doing what you're doing, man. That topic that you said really hit me. So it's like I said, if we can touch somebody, then it's better than nothing. So it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, again, is these conversations are needed and more people really think this way than not. But on the other hand, though, we're having them, and then there are many people who are like, that's wrong. Why are you guys talking like that? Why are you guys talking about these type of stuff, especially when it comes to women? You know what I'm saying? Oh man, y'all's conversation, you guys are misogynist. You hear that word thrown out around, or why are you guys chauvinistic, whatever the case, where it's pointed in a negative light. My thing is, these are guys being authentic and telling the truth and telling how they really feel. So
Mhm.
why is it such a problem, or why does a guy having a problem? Why do these conversations happening? Why does it cause such discourse? Do you think?
Why is it causing so discourse to why we're like able to have these conversations, and kind of like, is it taken away, you're saying?
Let's start with that. Why is it that guys having a conversation about anything, but mostly it's barbershop talk, and like these are guys' authentic opinions that people may not agree with? You know what I'm saying? Why do you think people don't agree? Why do you think people have a problem with that?
Because everybody's always gonna have something to say. It's just life. Like, no matter what you do, somebody's gonna have something to say. Like, literally, you can be doing something so positive. Like, you can be giving back to homeless. You can give back to like a fundraiser. You can be giving back to food bank, and if you post it, you do anything, somebody's gonna say something about something. So I think people like to do that just because they're bored. But if you want to give me a actual technical answer, it's because you might have said something that they did not agree in, and they kind of missed the context, the full context, but they just heard pieces and be like, well, he's so like this, he's so this, he's so alpha male. But instead of listening to the whole context of what just was said, you just took what you heard, and then it can just, this whole podcast can, like, thing for women or men can be looked down as like, you guys are this because you guys are going in that same lane or something. Like, for us, like, if we tell somebody right now we're doing a podcast. There's going to be a handful of people who say, oh, they want to be these people. They want to be these people.
Yep.
You're going to be this type of guy. You're going to be this type of guy. Oh, you're a podcast. I don't talk to people who do podcasts. So
Yep.
it's like you have somebody who's always got something to say. So that's just what it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, and especially with the ability to be able to snip and clip things and then, you know, kind of fold in the narrative or kind of change the narrative and make it and spin it into something that's not. I think that's
Right.
something that's really dangerous. So like my whole thing is when people send me clips of stuff, I'm like, nah, send me the full interview so I can watch it. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not the type to be like impressionable where I can hear something. It's like, okay, yeah, that could sound a certain way. Right. But then let me get the full context and let me see if that's really what that person meant. Men or women, because, you know, men are, you know, subject to this too. Guys fall for this too. But, you know, I see this really across the board. And I think my whole thing is, like, prime example, we talked about this even in the past, a guy who wants a certain thing out of his wife, a guy who wants a certain trait out of his wife, a guy who wants maybe certain roles out of his wife or out of his girlfriend even. No, that's wrong. You guys shouldn't be like that. Oh, you're just talking insecure, whatever the case, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. It's like, but that's the truth. And if all
Yeah,
these people are
the
saying it,
truth.
if all these people are saying it across the board, because if you go to any male, I don't see many who disagree, right? Or at least if they do disagree, they're not putting it out in front street, and they're the minority. So my thing is, if it's the truth, why are people trying to like
People don't
down
like
the
hearing the
truth?
truth.
Yeah, the
Like
truth.
that's literally the worst thing. People do not like hearing the truth and taking their, and that's where I get in so many debates with people, and I just can't help it. This is who I am. Like if you can't take the truth, you can't handle it. I'm just not the guy to ask, and that's why I tell people, like, do you want the truth or do you like I said, when I put my 2 weeks in and for my company, and my boss kind of asked me a couple questions, said, do you want the truth? And he's like, yeah. And I told him, he was shocked, but it's just like, don't ask me if you can't handle the answer. And that's probably why I'd be quiet a lot, because a lot of people can't handle the truth, and it's just okay. Just stay in your own lane. But you're gonna have people, discourage your goals and anything that you do, like anything you got going on. Like somebody's gonna think in their head, oh, he's not gonna make this, he's not gonna be able to do this. Those are just things that's in the world, and that's for you to just be mentally strong and get past that. So that doesn't really faze me.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like you said, like the truth is always good, but the truth isn't always good to hear. So it's like,
Mhm.
I don't like how that sounds, or I don't like that, but it's like, yeah, but it'll also help you for listening. So like I know when I have these conversations with guys and with women, right? I don't ever try to say it has to be this way. It's never absolute. It's never like it's never finite. But I just say for everything that we want to try to like shame or shun away, it's like it's not gonna go away, right? It's never gonna leave. You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of why people started speaking up is because they felt ignored, or they felt like they saw people feeling ignored. So it's like, okay, I'll you know, be the voice, if you will. I'll be the person who speaks out about it, because, you know, we need these conversations. And to me, it's an interesting sort of sociology experiment where like future generations will be able to see, okay, these were the conversations, you know, in the 2020s that people were talking about. This is how the mindset either changed, and this is what, you know, people evolved from. This is what people were thinking at that time. Because I mean, once you put it on YouTube and it's there, you know, people always have that to reference back to. So it's like, oh, well, these podcasts, you know, went through a little bit of turmoil, a little bit of controversy, but you know, these big channels were able to survive, or these channels didn't. This person got canceled, this person didn't get canceled. So like even that whole thing. Now to the women who might be listening, or you know, for some of the guys who I've spoken to, it's like the women who have a problem with these podcasts, largely they do what has been described as selective hearing, where they hear what they want to hear, and then they make problems. The stuff that they really dislike and the stuff that is good gets overshadowed. So the question is, if these conversations aren't going away, why don't the women listen and try to learn so they can help, especially when it comes to relationships, right? You know, these are things where guys are telling you, if you do these as a wife or as a partner, then this could lead to a happy relationship possibly. So why not learn and try to listen to that as opposed to trying to shut it away?
One thing I've realized is women have no problem saying they want this in a man, successful man, man as swole, tall. They have no problem asking for what they want. But flip it,
Yeah.
and if we ask them what we want, a traditional wife, this and this, we get to these, since not the 60s, this is 70s, 80s, whatever. This is not your traditional housewife. We can have a career. Like, before you even say anything about a career, they will say that. I'm like, nobody even told you anything about not having a career.
Mhm.
So I think they, like I said, people miss the full context of what you're trying to say. And it's like, if you have to learn how to word things to women so they can get it. And it's not that these women are like dumb or not, they're not. It's just that there's a certain way I feel like you have to speak to a woman, because they mostly think emotionally. And sometimes you have to bring them back and say, you know what, as a team and as your partner, let's fully get through this conversation. Let's think about this logically. So it's like, instead of just thinking emotionally. So once you have to really have those conversations, reassurance, tell them things, and you have to keep saying it so they can learn, and then they'll listen.
Mm.
And that's, you're gonna always go back and forth with that with women. And there's some guys who are the same way, but I mean, I've seen it more through women, but there's definitely some guys who don't listen. And that's a lot of women's trait, saying that guys don't listen, which that's weird for me. So
What do you say to the guys who just heard what you talked about, and their rebuttal is, why do I have to sugarcoat it? Why do I have to change it rather than just being able to tell them the truth? Like,
they're
why do I
emotional.
have, huh?
They're emotional. That's just, it is what like my mom always says that. She said, London, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
That's
And
true.
I'm
True.
like,
I've heard that.
what did I say? I'm like, she's like, just your tone. Even when I talk to my mom sometimes, she's like, your tone on it. And then any girl I've been with, like, they say your tone. So what I've done was just, I've learned to figure out how to word things, instead of just having our high demeanor, just like we're aggressive. So it's like, let me come back and kind of read the audience. So once you read the room and stuff, you gotta know that these women are fragile, and it's okay for them to be fragile, but you have to know the person you're talking with.
Yeah, I think that's big. I think that's really what it boils down to, is what kind of person are you talking to? What type of personality are they giving off? Like, for some people, and like, I think this is one thing I've been able to practice with just all the conversations I've had, both on the podcast, both in person. It's like understanding there are some people who do better when you directly communicate to them. So, hey, 1 + 1 is 2. There are some people who need explanation, right? So it's like, hey, okay, this is why we think this way. Or like, my thing is, if you don't understand, rather than saying I firmly disagree, it's like, okay, what are you missing? Or what is it that you don't like? What is it that you don't understand? Right. And then from there, rather than just saying, like, instead of giving them the bitter pill, it's like, all right, cool, we'll chop it up, boom, I'll crush it up for you, bang. All right, so this is what really is being said. Or put it simply, like, give them a Spark Notes version. They're not trying to hear all the words out. So it's like, all right, at the end of the day, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3, and this is how it goes. You know what I mean? And like, that's male or female, right? Some people,
Yeah.
everybody listens and takes in information differently. So I learned how to communicate in as many diverse ways, right? The way I talk to London isn't the way that I talk to X woman or Y dude, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's just
everybody,
understand.
you got to angle your way differently with everybody you speak to, because everybody reacts to things differently.
We kind of talked about it already, but is there a point to be made that guys, again, we talk about guys formulating and giving their opinions and people shunning that away, people having a problem with that, right? Or even women, like, people not, they shouldn't be allowed to have an opinion, or their opinion is wrong, therefore they should be canceled. Like, what's your take on cancel culture? Let me ask.
I think I think we're taking it too far,
Mm.
in my opinion. I think we're taking it way too far. Um, Granted, it's like even comedians can get canceled, and like, you can't joke no more. Like, usually when you're a comedian, nothing is off the limits, and you have to know when you're going to a comedy show that you can get roasted. Something can, and it's a joke. It's not that we're trying to be whatever, but it's just a joke. And some people, like, you can't say some certain things, but so now it's just like, you have to, like, a lot of people who's passed away, that like Bernie Mac and stuff, like, they would have probably been, quote unquote, canceled. But it's like, that's just, I think that's, I love people who's authentic, like, who can like be themselves and just speak their minds, but just they coming from a good heart. But like, it doesn't mean everything we say is just trying to be negative. It's just their opinion. But we can't have opinions in relationships. You can't have opinions at jobs. You can't have opinions at how you feel about stuff. So you just can't have that many opinions anymore. So it's best that you like. It's almost like you can't even tweet and have your opinion without it getting scrutinized. So it's like you got to just if you can have your opinion if you don't care what other people think. So if you don't care what people think, then you can have your own opinion fully. But if you kind of care what other people think, you kind of got to filter it a little bit.
Based on what you just said, it kind of raises two questions that I have. So the first one is that what is the fine line, or what is that line of, okay, that was just a joke versus nah, you done overstepped the line? Where do you think that falls?
When it's definitely a fine line, but it's like when that person keeps going at it, it's like you might have had some of these in your mind before you said this, and you just getting a little too comfortable and you just letting it all out. But if you just make like the G.I. Jane joke that Will Smith said, I mean that Chris Rock, to me that wasn't that bad for her to be mad. But I do understand if she has a problem like with her health, but at the same time, he's a comedian. Like a lot of people thought it was funny, but now it just, if you're starting to go into race or like how somebody's religion or how they beliefs are, it's cool to like say it briefly, but don't dwell on it too much. When you dwell on it, like for me, if somebody talks about Black people, like if it's funny, I might joke, laugh a little bit, but like if I know you don't have no ill intentions of who you really are and you really rock with us, I'm not gonna be mad. But if you go too far, I'm like, have you said this around some other people that's not us? And like have y'all really had that conversation? So for me, it's a fine line that you just can't overdo it.
Gotcha. Now, the second question I have is that it seems like a lot of people's credibility goes to their credentials, especially, when we're talking about social media. So a person, like, it's almost like, who are you to say something, or you shouldn't be allowed to say something, based on whether you have a lot of money, have a lot of clout, have a lot of status, have a lot of, what I'm saying? So
Right.
That or that mindset that a person's credentials are what enables them to be able to speak or not.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever like heard in my life. Like you always like I wish somebody would be that high and say you don't have the credentials, or you don't. If you're speaking on something like that you need to be educated on, we have the credentials, that's different. But at the same time, I'm never going to tell, I don't care if I'm a CEO, director, whatever I am, I'm never going to tell somebody you do not have the credentials to speak about this.
Yeah.
Like who are, like a lot of NBA players are starting to do it to analysts. I don't like it, even though I don't like the analysts a lot, but just because you don't hoop don't mean you can't speak the game of basketball.
Yeah.
And yes, they're not ever saying that they're better than you guys, but there's some people who love the game of basketball and who have played that knows the game, but just weren't as good as Kevin Durant or LeBron. So it's like Stephen A. Like Stephen A. is like, I'm never saying I'm better than, but he played at I think a D2 or something. So it's like he has the credibility to speak his mind. Their only thing is saying is you're getting like a public to ESPN, but it's like if we're not saluting these people, like you say, you can't tell people the truth. If you're not saluting these people, they hate you. Why is he on TV saying this? Why people are not okay with constructive criticism? That's why I said with social media. How would you feel about that? I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You blow up on social media, right? And you're posting your stuff, and then you look at comments, and they're just all a lot of negative. How do you react to it?
I don't. Because the thing is, if you react to negative comments, you give them power. My thing is, okay, you can comment. You're the one on my platform. You're the one in my comment section. You're the one who has given me the real estate in your brain. So I'm not going to give a dang about you one way or another. Right now, if you give me positive comments, if you're supporting me, great. I love you. You know what I'm saying? And I rock with you. But for people who come hating, I mean, haters are always going to exist. And I realized that, like, I had to think about this whenever I first decided, podcast. Okay, right. How are you going to take troll comments? Are you going to take hate comments? My thing is, if people aren't hating on you, then really, truly, you don't hold any influence. Like, you're not doing what you're supposed to do if people aren't hating on you. People only hate on people who they perceive as as a threat. I'm not even gonna say better or worse than, but as a threat. Or it's like, you threaten the way that I think, you threaten my vision, my optics, my perception, right? So now I got to tear you down to make me feel better. It's like, okay, well, I feel sorry for most people who have negative comments. That's the way I see it.
Honestly, and like, that's why I was telling my homeboy that blew up on IG.
Mhm.
He rarely gets stuff like fluttered by like people in comments, but he was starting to get like little uneased by it, and I was like, I said, bro, I said it's not even like you to even entertain those people, and like when you reply to him, like, bro, this dude doesn't know you from a can of paint.
Mhm.
Like just because he tells you that this exercise ain't this, or he tells you this, that makes no difference. So it's like for me, like you said, they would not be replying if you weren't doing so. It would not, for them to reply, it had to hit the FYP page. It had to hit something for it to just go like that. So I take that as like, that's good. I'm getting that. Like everybody I've talked to at Alpha, and I said, why do y'all let these people who don't even know you beat y'all like that? Y'all have to mentally get y'all's mental game out. So for me, I can never look at somebody and say you don't have an opinion. I love that people have opinions and have something to say. It's just how you kind of have the dialogue back and forth.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, at the end of all of this, I think what it boils down to is that everybody is entitled and allowed to have an opinion. This is the reason, like, why, us in America, you're allowed to have opinion and a choice, right? You also have the choice to choose who you want to listen to or who you want to take the opinions from, right? My thing is, I'm open to hearing anybody's opinion. Now, I might not agree. I might think your opinion is whatever, but at the end of the day, I have the individuality to be able to say, okay, I can take this person who's on this side of the spectrum. I can take that person who's on the opposite end of the spectrum. Okay, I like that. I like that. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that. And come together to a medium and say, okay, this is why I think. My whole thing is, I've always said, everything that I think or agree with comes from somewhere, right? I can always say, well, like when people ask, why do you think this way? I've seen it happen this way and this has seemed to work, or I seem to not like this because it seems to not work more likely than not. So like I always have that ability and like why I feel confident in everything I think about. Or I have the awareness to know, okay, I'm not really too familiar with that. I would have to learn about that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the one thing I think most people try to put on the front, like I have to know everything, even if they don't know, even if they don't know shit. So it's like, oh well, I'm just gonna, put on some words out and people can see through that.
Right.
I'd rather just be like, hey, truth be told, I really don't know too much. I can learn about it. But if I know something or if I feel strongly about something, I can say, this is why I think because of that. Now you can think, oh, I don't like how you said it. I don't like your opinion. I don't like the fact that you talk about those type of things. Fine. Right. But this is why I talk about them. This is why I brought up this topic. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's just being able to formulate your own opinions, which people lack. People want to be followers and don't know how to be authentic. And so then this is where we get to the space we're at.
No, it's real. I just think it's how you said it, and I use this in work life now. Is just that's a good question. Let me get back with you, and I can give you an answer. Like it's okay not to know stuff. I think people, like you said, always wants to know everything, and then just blurt out the wrong things instead of just it's okay was basically saying I don't know. Let me get back to you, or that's a good question. I do know. So that was a good point that you said.
Yeah. And like there are those who try to troll and, oh, you don't know? Well, then how are you able to speak on this? Or, you're supposed to be this. It's like, well, hey, at the end of the day, even you don't know everything. So, you know what I'm saying? Like that's
You know, like who says you're right? If you knew everything, you would be Bill Gates or somebody like that. So it's like not even Bill Gates doesn't know everything. So that should nobody knows everything.
right. All right, as we get towards the end, good little conversation we've had this week. Now that the elephant is kind of addressed and we're kind of trying to settle it, how does society move forward? So again, you have this question that I pose where it's like, hey, guys are having platforms, opinions, and I mean, obviously women have theirs too, right? But it's a matter of being able to come together and respect one another's opinion and try to learn from each other, right? Men try to learn from women, women try to learn from men, and try to, at the end of the day, this is about trying to help one another and get us all interacting together rather than staying on our side of the spectrum and saying, no, I hate them and I hate that side. So how do you think society can move forward? What do you think is the solution?
Communication.
Yeah. Okay, I hear that word a lot. Communicate. What does that look like? How does that look like? How do people communicate? Because people say that, and it's just kind of it's a catch-all term, right? People say it's just like respect. Oh,
Yeah.
we respect each other. Okay, but what does respect look like?
Yeah. What does communication looks like to that? I just think everybody got to stop putting up a front.
Yeah.
Like literally, like I think this whole it's like smoky mirrors, and until once that smoky mirrors go down, you be like, oh, this is who this person really is. But it's like if you can communicate that you have a problem, or you can communicate that you want to help people, but you don't know all the answers or whatever,
Mhm.
I will. It's like, okay, I already know this person is vulnerable. I already know this person is very asking for people to help them, but also help them as well. So it's like we're not sitting here to be like, oh, I know everything. I'm the coolest person. Like you don't got to always keep that macho toughness up. And I think a lot of people in the world is keeping that up because of social media. And it's once we have those talks and debates and communication, then things would be like more acceptable. Like, oh, this person does this. This person has cellulite. This person has this. Like we don't have to edit. We have to edit a lot of things to make things look a certain way. So then once you do that for so long, you think this is reality, and this is what reality has turned to. So for society to move forward, we have to get back to the organic stuff and communicate and be normal and be human. And that's all it is. We're starting not to try to be human no more. We're trying to be fake.
Hey, boy, London came with a gem. Okay, I see.
That's it. Just got to stop being fake, and we just got to get authentic again.
Yeah, I agree with you though. All right, that'll do it for this week. Again, another great episode. I like where we're going, man. This stuff's good.
Like I told this kid yesterday at the graduation party, I said, he said, what are the 3 things that you would take? I've never seen a 10th grader who flies planes. He was a pilot. It's weird. He went to 7. It's not weird, but he goes to 7 Lakes where I went to high school. I was like, you're advanced for your age. He said, how do I get girls? I said the 3 things that I say. Make sure you have your money right. Make sure you do your own thing. I said, make sure your body is fit and whatever. I said, the most important thing I'll say, always be yourself.
Yeah.
I was like, being yourself is going to take you so much further than being John and Tim. And then when it comes down to it, you're going to forget how John and Tim are, and you're just going to mess up your head, and everybody, it's just weird. So I said, be yourself. Like, don't ever be somebody that you're not.
I agree with that. I mean, and to me, adding one layer to it is like, be yourself, be your authentic self, right? Don't try to ever put on a front to, put on an image for somebody, for anybody, right? Because if you try to do it in one place, you end up translating it to another. So be your authentic self. If you're quirky, be quirky. If you're a person who's introverted and that's kind of your tendency, that's fine. But, understand how to communicate. If you're extroverted and you're full of energy, cool, be that. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever try to, because like, everybody's obviously evolving and changing, but the thing is always understand who you are and hone in on that. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever try to change yourself or compromise your beliefs. That's my main thing.
Facts.
All right. I'll do it for this week, y'all. We appreciate y'all who listen and tune in. Obviously, you can follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and all your listening platforms to continue to spread the message and the movement. You got anything else?
No, I think that was my message to go out. Just follow me on London_Ogletree on IG. Like Opie said, I appreciate you guys, and we're gonna keep this ship moving.
All right, we'll catch y'all next week. Wow.
Around, feet on the ground with a prove you wrong mindset. I'd rather go out on my sword to have my mind tapped. The ones with eyes can never see, I make the blind clap. I'm bringing back that type of sound that once defined rap. Divine